There's an old fable about a fox that is walking along and sees a bunch of grapes hanging way up high on the vine. The grapes look beautiful and juicy, and the fox says to himself, "Those look like the most delicious grapes I've ever seen." The fox tries to jump up and get the grapes, but he can't make it. He tries again and fails again. Finally, after a while, he says to himself, "I didn't really want those grapes anyway. They don't look very good." What could explain the fox's change in belief about the grapes? Psychologist Leon Festinger had a theory. In the 1950s, he proposed that humans, and fabled foxes, experience something called cognitive dissonance, which is a feeling of discomfort when our beliefs and our actions don't line up. To Festinger, the fox's decision that the grapes didn't look good after all is an example of how the fox is trying to change his beliefs about the grapes to conform to his action of giving up and not getting the grapes. He is trying to alleviate his cognitive dissonance. At the time that Festinger proposed it, his theory was revolutionary because it suggested that people sometimes act and then form an opinion, instead of forming an opinion or belief and then acting on it. In other words, Festinger said humans have a tendency to rationalize their actions to alleviate cognitive dissonance. Let's look closer at Festinger's theory and his classic study that showed the process of cognitive dissonance and the 3 ways that a person can alleviate the discomfort of it. Imagine that you are brought to a room and given something really boring to do. This is one of the most boring and tedious tasks that you've ever had to do. In fact, you think that you'd rather read the phone book than keep doing this task. But when it's over, the person in charge tells you that there's someone waiting outside who will be coming into the room in a minute and doing the same thing that you've just finished doing. He offers you money to tell the person outside that the task is really interesting and fun. What do? This was the setup for Leon Festinger's study on cognitive dissonance, but there was a twist to it. The subjects were offered different amounts of money. Some subjects were offered $20, quite a lot of money back in the 1950s. Others were offered just $1, not much even back then. After the subjects lied to the person outside, they were asked to rate how they felt about the task on a scale. Which group do you think said they liked the task better? To answer that question, let's first take a closer look at how cognitive dissonance works. Okay, so you're paid to lie to someone about how fun and interesting a task is. But you know that lying isn't a good thing to do. When you lie, you feel bad. You are experiencing cognitive dissonance. Liars are bad people, you think, but you've just lied. Does that make you a bad person? The process of cognitive dissonance can be divided up into 3 general steps. Number 1, inconsistency in actions and beliefs. Lying is bad, but you do it anyway. There is a disconnect between your actions, lying, and your beliefs, that it's bad. Number 2, recognition of inconsistency causes dissonance. If you don't recognize that your actions and beliefs are out of alignment, then you won't experience cognitive dissonance. But once you realize that you've lied and that you think lying is bad, you are uncomfortable with the feeling of dissonance that occurs. Number 3, change something to resolve the dissonance. You're feeling really bad that you lied, so you need to change something to feel less dissonance. There are 3 ways to resolve the cognitive dissonance you feel when your actions and beliefs are out of alignment. In all of them, something has to change. You can either, number 1, change your beliefs. You could change your mind and say, you know what, it was a pretty interesting task after all. Your beliefs have changed, and so you feel better because they are now in alignment with your actions. You didn't lie to the person in the hallway if you really believed that it was a fun task. This change in beliefs often happens subconsciously. That is, you might not realize that you've changed your beliefs. You might think that you always liked the task. Number 2, change your actions. Instead of changing beliefs, you could change your actions to meet your beliefs. For example, you could promise yourself that you'll never lie again, Or you could go back and tell the person in the hallway that you lied and that the task really wasn't very interesting. Number 3, change your perception of your actions. You might not change your beliefs or your actions, but you could instead change your perception of your actions. That is, you could change what you believe about what you did. For example, you could justify your actions by saying, "I lied just to get the money." So let's go back to Festinger's study. Now that you know the different ways to resolve cognitive dissonance, which group do you think changed their beliefs and really believed that the task was more interesting after they lied? Was it the group paid $20 or the group paid $1? Festinger found that the group paid only $1 to lie consistently rated the task as more interesting. If you think about it, this makes sense. The $20 liars changed their perception of their actions to resolve their cognitive dissonance. They were able to justify their lie by saying they were paid a lot of money to do it. But the $1 liars weren't paid very much to lie, so it was harder for them to justify their actions. Instead, they changed their beliefs. And remember that changing beliefs often happens subconsciously, so they really thought that they enjoyed the task more than they did. Psychologist Leon Festinger introduced the theory of cognitive dissonance, which is the discomfort people feel when their thoughts and actions don't align, in a famous study where he paid people to lie. He found that the process of cognitive dissonance happens when there is an inconsistency in a person's beliefs and actions, and they recognize that inconsistency. To try to resolve their cognitive dissonance, a person can change their beliefs, change their actions, or change their perception of their actions.